I'm here to shatter the silence. Diddy isn't just a monster. He's an entire machine. And I've witnessed it all.
Breaking news from Manhattan, actor and human rights advocate George Clooney made a stunning appearance as a witness on day 16 of the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Speaking publicly for the first time, Clooney delivered explosive testimony tied to grave allegations against the music mogul, with details said to have the potential to shift the entire course of the case.
What could be so shocking that George Clooney, close friend of a U.S. president, broke his vow of silence to utter 9 words that could send Diddy to prison for life. On day 16 of the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs, no one could have predicted the witness who stepped up to the stand, a name that commands respect across the globe, George Clooney. A beacon of integrity, the man Hollywood reveres as the last bastion of morality in a world of glitz and glamour, stood before the court with a steely gaze. He wasn't there to play a role, but to unveil a chilling truth that left the world trembling.
People keep asking, why didn't George speak out sooner? Let me tell you why, because he had the tapes. Because he had someone inside the FBI. Because if George uttered even one wrong word, someone would vanish. I've seen it happen to 3 of my friends already. George survived because he mastered the art of silence. For a bunch of crazy to come to where I live. Y'all cute.
Another one.
From shadowy rooms untouched by cameras to elite soiree reserved for the ultra-powerful. From celebrities who vanish without a trace after a night of entertainment to menacing threats delivered to doorsteps in ink as red as blood. Clooney didn't speak in riddles. He brought forth memories never before revealed and a list of names that could rock Hollywood to its core. Why would someone like George Clooney choose to break his silence? What drove him to stand at the witness stand, confronting a titan like Diddy, a man Clooney himself once called the face of darkness in an industry of light? Join us as we embark on a journey to uncover the truth, where light and shadow clash in an unrelenting battle.
I never wanted to stand here, but there are things I've seen, truths I can't carry to my grave. Diddy didn't just harm individuals. He constructed an empire of crime, and I was one of its victims.
A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Even the court stenographer paused for a fleeting moment. George Clooney, the man celebrated as a beacon of human rights, a close ally of political giants like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, now stood at the witness stand, facing down one of the entertainment industry's most formidable titans. Clooney locked eyes with the jury, his gaze sharp yet heavy with anguish, his words struck like a bullet piercing the silence of the courtroom. Reporters scrambled to jot down every syllable, while spectators held their breath. This wasn't just testimony, it was a declaration of war. Why would George Clooney, a man who has it all, fame, influence, and universal respect, risk everything to confront Diddy? What horrific secret was so unbearable that it shattered decades of silence? Join us as we dive into his testimony, where revelations unfold that will keep you riveted.
He tried to exploit me.
George Clooney began his account with a revelation that left the courtroom stunned. Diddy approached him in 2013 with a calculated agenda. Clooney recounted, his voice laced with bitterness. It wasn't just about cementing his status in the entertainment world. He wanted a gateway into the realm of refined politics. At a white party in the Hamptons, Diddy told me, "Rap won't change the world. True power lies in places like the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, or organizations like the Gates Foundation. And George, you're my ticket to that world." Clooney explained that Diddy's ambitions went far beyond polishing his image as a rapper tied to wealth, women, and controversy. He sought to reinvent himself as a businessman activist, a figure who could stand shoulder to shoulder with global politicians and philanthropists. He knew that aligning with me, someone respected in both Hollywood and Washington, would give him a shortcut to the corridors of influence without navigating the maze of political affiliations, Clooney revealed.
He even bragged about wanting to forge new black leaders in American politics, but I quickly saw through it. It was just a pretext to advance his own selfish agenda.
Having seen through Diddy's true nature, George Clooney chose to play a perilous game. "I figured if you don't enter the tiger's den, how can you catch the beast?" he said, his eyes glinting with resolve. "I pretended to accept his invitation, stepping into his world to gather evidence and expose this demon for what he is. But Diddy was no easy mark. He's a cunning fox," Clooney admitted. "At first he was cautious. For a full year, he only invited me to his white parties, lavish gatherings where Hollywood stars, tech billionaires, and politicians clinked champagne glasses, discussing everything from movie scripts to global policy. Every so often, he'd toss out a question about politics, as if probing me, testing whether I was someone he could truly trust. It wasn't until the summer of 2013 that Diddy began to let his guard down, revealing his true colors. Everything shifted when Clooney received a mysterious envelope with no return address. Inside was a plain white card, blank except for GPS coordinates and a single timestamp, 2 a.m. I thought it was a prank, Clooney recalled, until a text from an unknown number popped up on my phone. Follow the coordinates. Wear black. Leave your phone behind. Curiosity, tinged with a gnawing sense of unease, overpowered his caution. Clooney decided to follow the instructions, but not without a plan.
I brought along a tiny camera concealed in my watch, a device I'd long relied on to protect myself in unpredictable situations.
That night, a black SUV whisked Clooney away, weaving through narrow streets and silent industrial zones before pulling into the desolate parking lot of a well-known amusement park. "I can't name that park," Clooney said, his gaze darkening as he faced the jury. But millions of families visited every year, snapping photos and laughing, oblivious to the entirely different world lurking beneath their feet. He described the entrance as a steel door concealed behind a concrete wall leading to a frigid concrete corridor guarded by silent men. "They weren't bodyguards," Clooney stressed. "They were machines fully aware of who I was without so much as a glance at my ID. Their eyes were ice cold, as if I'd stepped into a place with no way out." At the end of the corridor stood a heavy metal door, opening into a vast underground chamber bathed in dim, eerie light with low, throbbing music pulsing like the heartbeat of a beast. "This wasn't a party," Clooney said, his voice trembling yet resolute. "It was a ritual, a perverse ceremony. I saw people the public idolizes, billionaires, Oscar winners, tech moguls, even a few elected officials, individuals who've built their personas on kindness and trust. But there, they donned robes, wore masks, and signed non-disclosure agreements as if it were routine. They laughed, participated, and shielded one another within a web of silence." Clooney paused, his eyes heavy with the weight of what he'd witnessed.
I never took part in what they did, but I stayed close, watching, memorizing. And that haunts me every single day.
Clooney explained that these gatherings were far more than venues for indulging desires. They were a system built for control, he said. "You didn't just attend, you were seen attending alongside other powerful figures. That created a bond, a silent pact, because if one person spoke out, the entire structure would collapse. That's how Diddy operated untouched for so long." He revealed that many attendees weren't coerced by threats, but were enticed by promises of lasting fame, unbreakable connections, and access to the true social pyramid of power and influence. The first piece of evidence Clooney presented in court was a list of names he had glimpsed in Diddy's lair. Near the entrance, on a stone pedestal, sat a hardcover ledger, he recounted. Everyone who entered had to sign it, like a ritual to pledge their silence. "I didn't sign, but I saw the names on the previous page, names that, if revealed, would stun the nation." With the caution of someone always prepared for danger, Clooney had used the tiny camera hidden in his watch to capture an image of the page. He submitted a copy of that photograph to the court, along with a handwritten list of names he recalled, including politicians, A-list stars, and behind-the-scenes power brokers in the entertainment industry. "I'm not here to destroy them," Clooney stressed.
But I need this court to understand that Diddy didn't operate alone. He was the hub of a web shielded by the silence of the most influential figures.
George Clooney stood tall, his gaze unwavering but his hands trembling slightly as he presented his second piece of evidence, a series of videos he had secretly recorded at Diddy's gatherings. "I know what I'm about to reveal will horrify people," he said, his voice low yet resonant, echoing through the hushed courtroom. "These are videos I covertly captured at Diddy's events, what happened behind locked doors in what he called the lair. I risked my life to collect them, but I couldn't stand by knowing the atrocities unfolding right in front of me." Clooney described how he prepared for this dangerous mission with the meticulous caution of someone seasoned by the high-stakes world of entertainment. "I wore glasses fitted with a tiny camera, the kind of gear only those navigating Hollywood's underbelly would know about," he recounted. "I'm no spy, but I've learned how to protect myself in an industry riddled with secrets and betrayal. I knew that to expose Diddy, I needed undeniable proof." The videos, carefully stored on an encrypted hard drive and locked in a safe at his Lake Como residence, were evidence of what Clooney called a depraved world that Diddy had created and orchestrated. According to Clooney, the videos unveiled a chilling reality within the lair, soundproof underground chambers designed to trap every sound and guard every secret. "These weren't just parties," he insisted, his voice thick with outrage and anguish. "They were arenas of corruption, where the vulnerable people Diddy referred to as nuggets, often individuals with disabilities or easy to exploit, were treated like props passed around among powerful guests as part of a twisted game." Clooney painted a grim picture of attendees, anonymous behind masks and robes, laughing and toasting with glasses of wine while these nuggets were humiliated and abused.
They called it entertainment. To me, it was a crime, a desecration of humanity. And at the heart of it all stood Diddy, grinning like a king on a throne of depravity, orchestrating every move with the confidence of someone who believed himself untouchable.
One particular video brought the courtroom to a stunned silence, broken only by the heavy breathing of the jurors. Clooney described the scene captured on tape. Diddy, with a cold, commanding gaze and a voice dripping with authority, personally directed a group of masked figures, ordering them to perform the ritual on a blindfolded nugget lying motionless on a deep crimson cushion in the center of the room. It was like a ceremony of darkness, Clooney said, his eyes heavy with the weight of the memory. The blindfolded person had no idea what was happening, but the fear on their face, though partially hidden, made me want to retch right there. I had to suppress every instinct to intervene, knowing that if I did, I'd never get the chance to bring this evidence to light. He emphasized that Diddy wasn't just the organizer, but the mastermind, issuing commands with chilling precision, as if following a meticulously crafted script. Clooney explained that the videos didn't just capture acts of cruelty, they exposed a power structure designed to conceal and protect those involved. The people in that room weren't just thrill seekers, he said. They were billionaires, Oscar-winning stars, elected officials, individuals who'd built public personas on kindness, compassion, and trust. But there, they revealed their true selves, and Diddy knew how to exploit it. He used these videos, these secrets, to keep them under his thumb, like puppets on his strings. Clooney revealed that the footage also showed covert dealings, discreet handshakes, thick envelopes changing hands, and whispered conversations about business or political deals being greased in that very space. To safeguard the evidence, Clooney stored the videos on an encrypted hard drive, locked away in a hidden safe at his private residence.
I knew that if Diddy found out, my family and I would pay a heavy price.
My voice dropped, he said, his tone growing somber, but I knew these videos weren't just evidence against Diddy, they were proof of a system, a web of power built on silence, corruption, and manipulation. The people in that room didn't participate solely out of desire, they joined because they knew their mutual silence would shield them all. It was only when he decided to testify that Clooney entrusted the hard drive to his attorney with strict conditions for its protection. "I'm not doing this for fame or vengeance," he said, locking eyes with the jury. "I'm doing this for those without a voice, the ones turned into pawns in Diddy's game, and the schemes of powerful figures like him." When the video was played in court, only a brief, carefully selected segment due to its sensitive nature, a murmur rippled through the room. Jurors bowed their heads, some covering their mouths, unable to mask their horror. Clooney stood firm, his gaze fixed on Diddy, who sat motionless at the defendant's table. When the judge, with a stern expression, asked George Clooney why he hadn't come forward against Sean Diddy Combs sooner, the courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Clooney lowered his head for a moment, as if wrestling with a painful memory, before looking up, his voice steady yet resolute. "Your Honor," he began, "I didn't speak out earlier for two reasons. First, I was afraid not just for myself, but for my wife Amal and our children. The people in Diddy's world, those backing him, wield power and influence beyond what most can imagine. They wouldn't hesitate to harm my family to protect their secrets. And second," Clooney paused, his eyes heavy with emotion, as if summoning every ounce of courage to continue.
I couldn't bring myself to confront what I'd seen, the horrors I witnessed, or the steep cost I paid for daring to gather evidence against him.
Clooney recounted a night in 2014 when he was at one of Diddy's freak-off parties secretly recording. Out of the shadows, Diddy emerged, his face an icy mask. "He didn't say much," Clooney recalled. "He just stared at me and signaled to his henchmen. Then I felt a sharp blow to my head. They forced me to drink something, a drug that left me gasping, my body convulsing. I collapsed." When he came to, Clooney found himself in a hospital, his body racked with pain. His wife, Amal, explained that a passerby had found him unconscious on the roadside, battered with multiple injuries, and called an ambulance. "It took me 6 months to recover," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. But the worst was yet to come. A month after his discharge, an envelope arrived at his Lake Como home. Inside was a USB drive and a card with a chilling message. "Welcome home, George." With a sinking feeling, Clooney plugged the USB into an offline laptop for safety. What appeared on the screen left him stunned, enraged, and horrified all at once. "It was footage of me unconscious," he said, his voice trembling with fury. "They Diddy's goons stripped off my clothes, doused me with liquor, and trampled my body like I was a toy. They laughed, mocked, and humiliated me to the core. And Diddy, he stood there, smirking, directing every move like a filmmaker staging a horror scene. But what stopped Clooney's heart was the final moment of the video, an image of his wife, Amal, bound tightly, her face bruised, her eyes brimming with terror. Diddy stared into the camera, his voice cold and deliberate. "Go to the police, George, and your family will pay the price." The courtroom fell silent, save for the labored breaths of the jurors. Clooney recounted how he contacted Diddy immediately, despite the fear gripping his chest. He answered the phone laughing like it was some twisted joke. Clooney said, "Did you like my gift, George?" he asked, his tone dripping with sadistic glee. I begged him to spare my family, willing to do anything to protect Amal and our children. Diddy, with the cruelty of a man certain of his dominance, made him an offer.
He told me he was working on a major deal, a business venture that required me to connect him with influential figures to smooth things over. He promised that if I complied, he'd release Amal and put an end to it all.
Clooney submitted to the court a list of names. Diddy had demanded he contact high-ranking political officials, CEOs of major corporations, and even some entertainment industry figures. Alongside it was a receipt for a $1 million wire transfer from Diddy to his account, disguised as a consulting fee to evade scrutiny from authorities. "I did it for Amal," Clooney said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I had no choice. But after the deal was done, I uncovered a horrifying truth. It was an illegal arms trafficking operation, masked by fake contracts and powerful connections." When the deal went through, Diddy sent Clooney a chilling text, "You and I are in the same boat now, George." But that wasn't the end. Clooney revealed that Diddy continued to coerce him into similar schemes throughout 2014 and 2015, each time backed by fresh threats or videos reminding him of his vulnerability. Every time he'd send more emails, texts, or audio clips to tighten his grip, Clooney recounted. "I kept them all, from threatening messages and emails exchanged with Diddy's associates to a recorded phone call from late 2015, where he told me, 'You're my asset, George. Never forget that.'" Clooney turned over this entire cache of evidence to the court: transaction records, videos of meetings with influential figures, and audio files, holding the jury's rapt attention. "I didn't keep them to protect myself," he said, his voice resolute.
I held on to them to ensure that he and those shielding him could no longer manipulate and ruin the lives of others.
As Clooney concluded his testimony, Diddy's legal team launched an immediate counterattack. Mark Agnifilo, the lead attorney, rose to his feet, his voice icy and cutting. "Mr. Clooney, you expect us to believe that you, a global superstar, were coerced by Mr. Combs. Why didn't you go to the police from the start?" Clooney met Agnifilo's gaze without flinching. "Because I knew the cost of speaking out. I'd seen what happened to others, careers shattered, reputations destroyed, and when my wife was threatened, I had no choice." Diddy, seated at the defendant's table, suddenly spoke up, his voice quivering yet defiant. "George, you're lying. I never touched you or your wife. This is all a performance to take me down." The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, but the judge demanded silence. Clooney locked eyes with Diddy, his tone calm but razor sharp. "Sean, you know the truth, and the videos don't lie." George Clooney's testimony wasn't just a blow to Diddy, it was a ticking time bomb for the entertainment and political worlds. The names in the guest book, the video recordings, and Clooney's ledger of transactions could spark a cascade of new investigations. Politicians, celebrities, and executives named in his account now faced the looming threat of exposure. But what is the cost of truth? For Clooney, it's the risk of retaliation, exile from Hollywood, and the constant dread that his family could once again become a target. For the public, his testimony raises profound questions. Where is the line between power and abuse? When celebrities become pawns in criminal networks, what is our responsibility to hold them accountable? The empire Diddy built, fueled by silence, intimidation, and bribes, wasn't his creation alone. It thrived on the indifference of those who knew but stayed quiet, and the greed of those willing to trade their integrity for fame. Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, was also dragged into the spotlight when Clooney revealed her presence at several white party events, where she played the role of peacemaker, smoothing over strained ties between Diddy and powerful figures. "She knew everything," Clooney declared. "She wasn't just Diddy's mother, she was part of the machine." This accusation left the courtroom reeling, while raising a haunting question: how far will a family go to protect their own, even if it means enabling a web of crime? As George Clooney stepped down from the witness stand, a heavy silence blanketed the courtroom. He had paid a steep price: his family's safety, his reputation, and countless sleepless nights haunted by harrowing memories. Yet, he also ignited a spark of hope that justice, though delayed, could still prevail. The Diddy case isn't just about one man. It's about a machine, a story of how power can corrupt and how silence can turn into complicity. Will justice truly be served in this case, or is this merely a chapter in the long, shadowy saga of Hollywood's secrets? The answer rests with you, the people bold enough to ask questions, dig deeper, and demand the truth. To continue this journey of exposing these dark secrets and stay updated on the case's next developments, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We need your support to keep delivering in-depth investigative stories like this. In our next video, we'll reveal more names from Clooney's list and break down how they could send shockwaves through both Hollywood and Washington. Don't miss it.